Intel Extreme Masters Trophy. Please welcome on stage the Vice President of Katowice, Valdemar Boyorun. Hello and welcome, Katowice! After 5 amazing days of Starcraft 2, it is absolutely fantastic to be here in the Spodek Arena. We saw such amazing players and amazing games, and so many crazy upsets. This is the Intel Extreme Masters.
Welcome to the Hacks Pre-Show.
Words can barely describe that career-defining moment here in the Spodek Arena as four of the greatest players in the world will battle for their chance at $150,000 and the title of World Champion. On the greatest stage of them all, this is StarCraft 2 Legacy of the Void. My name is Kyle Laris. I'll be your host throughout the next couple of series. And to my right-hand side, joining me here to get things going, we have Artosis, we have Rotterdam. Gentlemen, it's always a phenomenal feeling to be here in the Spodek Arena.
You know, it really is, and we've been here for years now. The Polish fans, second to none. I can say that unequivocally, being around the world.
Yep.
And for this tournament, they should be, because I think we can all agree this is probably the best tournament we have ever had in StarCraft 2.
And our top four is looking so good, James. Over the last few years, of course, we've always had good games here in the Spodek, but especially today, looking at this top four, it rarely happens that you look at the top four and you're like, actually all four of these players can very realistically win this tournament. Everybody's got different picks as well. It feels great to be here.
Yeah, it definitely does, especially as you say, the top four here looking absolutely insane, considering their roads that they've had to take here throughout the tournament. Let's start talking about our four players, of course, as we take a look at them. You have players like Rogue and Maru that will be coming up later on down the line. Two players, one of them of which is a world champion from 2017. Rogue, of course, proving himself on an extremely grand stage over at BlizzCon, and he's going to be coming in here looking for a second world title.
And he might be the favorite, really. If you look at this realistically, he dominated the end of 2017. He won IEM Shanghai. He won GSL Super Tournament 2. He won the World Championships at BlizzCon.
Yep.
And here he is in the top four. He's barely lost any games. I mean, maybe he lost to Serral once, who's also in the top four. So that shows the level you have to be to take out Rogue.
What I love from Rogue as well is that a lot of people were actually doubting him in the beginning of this tournament, just because 2018 we haven't seen that much of him. We've only seen him in one Premier tournament, and he lost early on. And obviously StarCraft fans, being as reasonable as we always are, is like, he doesn't have it anymore, and now he showed up. And actually throughout the tournament he looked so good, only dropping a single series. Yeah, Rogue is obviously still for real. I mean, at the end of 2017, there was no one better.
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, we can show you the bracket just to get you up to speed, just in case you missed some of the earlier bracket stages that were going on. And let me tell you, if you did miss the round of 12 and the round of 8, almost every single series was down to the wire, phenomenal play in and out. And we can talk a little bit about the opponent that Rogue is going to be going up against later on as well, Maru, one of the four horsemen of Terran over in South Korea, and everything he does on this stage has just shone through and looked amazing.
Well, he's been a player, a StarCraft 2 professional since the very beginning, since Wings of Liberty. And he's been one of the very top Terrans in the world. Every time, like, Terran is in trouble, Maru is one of the two Terrans that comes out, and here he is once again, top 8 in GSL right now, top 4 in IEM Katowice.
And actually we can start talking about our first match here, which is going to be Serral going up against Classic, Finland going up against South Korea. Rotterdam, talk to me.
A ridiculous matchup. I mean, Classic was one of the top favorites coming into this tournament, and Serral, of course, I mean, he was one of the foreign hopes, one of the only non-Koreans that we really thought could bring it to the Korean StarCraft professionals, and he's been doing it. He played out of his mind, and what I love the most about Serral's run this tournament is that, of course, last year he made it to the quarterfinals as well, but back then the story ended very quick. He lost 0-3. Yesterday in the quarterfinals, he's down 0-2. He's in trouble game 3, and then I'm sure that it goes through his mind as well. Well, here we go again, a year later, the exact same story, but he turned it around and now he's here. Like, I'm loving this matchup, James.
Artosis, your thoughts on this matchup quickly before we go to it?
It's so hard to predict, but Rogue did already take out TY, one of the other four horsemen of Terran, the defending champion, really, of IEM Katowice. So I'm looking at Rogue. He's a defending world champion. He might be favored for the whole tournament.
All right, well, I am getting word that we are ready to start proceedings here for the Intel Extreme Masters World Championship semi-final. Serral is going to go up against Classic to find out who moves on to the grand final.
Thank you very much, Kalaris. Like you just said, it is finally time to introduce the players for our first semifinal match of the day. Are you ready? Come Coming up first is one of the best Zerg players in the world. He's the recent WCS Leipzig champion and the only non-Korean left at this event. Please welcome on stage, it is Serral! Going up against Serral is the strongest Protoss player right now. He's only dropped 2 games at this entire event. Please welcome on stage, it is Classic!
It's such a big match here. The first semifinals of today, Finland versus Korea. Serral up against the best Protoss in the world in Classic.
Both players pretty close to flawless on their roads to the semifinals. Barely lost just a few maps. For Serral, it's been 4. Classic has lost 2. But the Finnish Phenom attracted so much attention, almost going out in the previous round with a reverse kill against Trap, only 19 years old. And if he was to win here and advance onto the grand finals and then win again, he would win more money than he has previously in his entire career with the $150,000 first place finisher.
That is incredible. He really has come into his own in the last year or so. He has been terrorizing the European ladder for such a long time. Players have been speaking about how he is unmatched in practice, but it's now in 2018 where he started to turn that into results on LAN when it counts. He is already a WCS champion this year. He wants to add that IEM trophy to his accomplishments.
And his series against Trap was definitely a special one, down 0-2. In 2 maps where everything went right for Trap, all of his timings. He caught Serral at the worst moments. It really felt like in some of these games. But Serral stayed focused, and for him to come back at such a young age in such a high-pressure situation really goes to show he's ready for the big stage. I really believe he is. And who better than to taste his skills than a Classic who's looked simply like the best player in the world right now. Both of these players are ranked 1 and 2 currently on the League Alike, so they've been on an absolute tear, barely losing any matches, and they just look so good. It feels like whoever wins here might be the favorite to win the whole thing, but I mean, on the other side, we have Rogue and Maru. It's almost hard to even say something like that.
It's all favorites at this point. That's all that's left. Of course, these players have just been showing us such strong play so far. Classic, a player who has a history of going underrated despite amazing performances because he is such a surgical player. There's little flashiness to his play. It's just pure efficiency. He goes straight for his opponent's throat. He wins games in the quickest possible fashion. Classic, a man with a massive range of strategy, always adapting to the spot in the game, adapting to his opponent. Never one who seems to be stuck within his own style. He always seems to be playing against how his opponent wants to play the game, looking to disrupt, looking to mess with his game plan and win as decisively as possible.
Serral, the only player not from Korea in our round of 12 to make it all the way there into that round of 4 now. And we saw yesterday what he's capable of doing. That final game against Trap was just ridiculous. If you guys missed it, Serral was basically attacking in 2-3 places at once, dropping all over the place. and just making it look like almost another brand of Zerg and Starcraft. It was just insane. I think a lot of the Korean players as well, they were looking at that and just thinking like, this guy is just a beast right now.
There was actually a great shot yesterday. We saw Classic in the audience watching that series. We saw his reaction after seeing the first-person view of Serral multitasking in 4 locations at once with pinpoint precision. And his mouth was open a little bit. He looked like he was awed by what he was going to have to face off against. Of course, Serral, he's just been getting better and better. And for such a young player to get to the brink of defeat in the quarterfinals, to go down 0-2 and come back, that is a huge confidence booster for a player who hasn't been in such important matches as much as someone experienced like Classic. To be able to get over that hurdle was a big turning point. Last year at the exact same tournament, he went down 0-3, but this time he turned it around. Now he is ready for this semifinals, but in front of him, an absolute powerhouse of a Protoss player. Let's introduce these players. Down here in the bottom right-hand side of Acid Plant, in the blue, the Zerg, he is Serral.
And his opponents in the north position, he's only lost 2 maps so far in his tournament. Playing Protoss, it is Classic.
Acid Plant, a map we've seen a lot throughout this tournament. One which leads itself to a lot of that mid-game aggression. Serral having a bit of a disastrous start to his series against Trap on this map. We saw him gain a massive lead and then have it slip away a little bit there, getting a bit too focused on trying to stop the third base of his opponent. No doubt learning from that loss is going to be coming into this series a little bit more mentally prepared, not wanting to overextend into those Protoss defenses.
And we've seen what these players can do previously. They're obviously extremely good at the game, very fast and all that. But one of the best features that we have here on the Intel Extreme Masters, which I believe we're going to keep on using, is the first-person point of view, which really emphasizes how good these guys can be in one of the fastest-paced games in the world. Yesterday, that last game of Serral against Strap, we really saw that. It really showcased how fast this guy is in attacking on multiple fronts, which I think could be key in trying to defeat somebody like Classic, who's just so good at defending in one single place. Now, Laser was able to win a game against Classic thanks to a lot of roaches and some Swarmhost attacks and consistent siege. But I feel like Classic, he will definitely have looked at that game and try and not repeat the same mistakes that he has made against Laser previously in that one series.
Of course, for Classic, trying to solve the problem that is Serral, a player who seems to almost never die to cheesy rushes. He almost always withstands those, and he seems to get ahead throughout the early game, almost no matter what happens. For Classic, it's about analyzing the builds and figuring out what he's up against. He's seen Serral's play, and throughout this tournament, there's been 2 key openings. One is the very safe Roach play. Serral loves to play that against the Adept openings. He tries to get that information. If he sees extra Adepts, he makes a ton of Roaches off about 50 workers, blocks everything, and then explodes into that mid to late game. The other style, which Serral has been a little bit upset by sometimes, he has kind of gone down to some rushes, is when he tries to tech up to Hydralisks immediately, gets taken down by a rush once in a while, Trap using a big Adept push to finish him in that game.
Ooh, he stops mining gas here, did Classic, so he's getting charged. There is a robo on the way. Expect a lot of gateways to go down here very soon, and Classic to go for a massive charge lot attack here. Guys, Classic is going to be opening very aggressively here with a huge commitment towards the attack that he's going to go for, and it's going to be for Serral to realize what's happening and try and defend against it, but he has no way to see it coming. Classic is selling this so well, he's taking the gas on the natural base, and the only scout forward here for Serral is that one Overlord that's not really seeing anything important right now.
It has no idea. That fake gas on the front, Classic gonna mine from that to give the impression that he's teching. But right now, he is as all in as you can possibly go. All the cards are on the table. Classic is just making a ton of gateways, making charge. He's gonna hit one big charge zealot attack. It has to win or he will be infinitely behind. Serral has no idea that this is coming. And what a ballsy way to start off the series for Classic. He is gambling hardcore that Serral won't spot this. Serral does have some Zerglings on the south side of the map. If he spots this Warp Prism coming, that is going to be huge.
And
it's going to give him some warning.
I think this is what he's looking for. That's why he's placed his units like this. He saw that there were no Stargate units. He's placed his links here and waiting to spot a Warp Prism. He's going to see it in a second.
My gosh.
Serral needs to stop making drones. He needs to start producing units right now. He's going to spot it here. We're taking a look at the view of Serral. He's going to go into panic mode and try to get as many units as he can. Starts a Hydralisk then, but he needs to spam that Zergling button right now.
We talked about how Serral likes to rush up to Hydralisks, and this is his build that is the most vulnerable. He knows he doesn't have a Baneling Nest or a Roach Warren. It's purely Queens, Zerglings, and Spine Crawlers for the defense. He is grabbing everything to the front. Masses of Queens and Zerglings on the way. He's looking for these Zealots. He's identified them. Of course, in the first-person view, we can see him spreading out those Queens. But the Warp Prism's in the main base. He can't let them warp in there.
Yeah, actually Serral's gonna run there with the Queens. He was kind of waiting for the other wave of Zealot around the third base. Classic, spreading his units across around the main base and the third base. The Warp Prism in the main needs to fly away against those Queens that are gonna try to snipe it. If that were to go down, the rush would end. Serral with 5 Hydralisk in production. He's trying to buy a little bit of time, but these Zealots are going crazy, killing everything.
Zerglings are not the unit you want against Zealots. Zealots so good in this position. They're running rampant. The natural has been evacuated. Serral caught here being a little bit greedy, and Classic running all over his base. These Queens trying to stand strong. The transfusers are landing. These Queens tanking so much damage. The Hydra's starting to gather together. Serral starting to mount a defense in the main, but the third and the natural have been completely ransacked.
There is so many Zealots and he keeps reinforcing. GG gets called and Classic will win game number 1 with a very aggressive rush.
The perfect way to start this series for Classic. We've said it before. He doesn't toy around. He doesn't get stuck within one style. He is a player who adjusts to his opponent. And he studied Serral here. He knows that Serral doesn't like to go for that Overlord speed. He's often blind to what's happening in the main base. And that Stalker denied the vision of everything. He went across the map, and with no Roach Warren or Baneling Nest ready, Serral simply could not defend. It was a great positioning with the Zerglings. He spotted the Warp Prism, but with no Baneling Nest or Roach Warren, there was just no way to defend that.
Yeah, I think if Serral had had a Roach Warren there, he could have already been spamming, you know, that R button, and ideally just kited properly enough to be able to defend, but it's just so hard. And you really have to commend Classic, though, on the decision-making to go for the Prism in the main and send the Zealots around the third base. That makes it even harder for Zerg to really micro against this. Ideally, you want the Protoss to be in just one place so that you can kind of kite your way back, buy a little bit of time. But now, you can't really be in 2 places nearly as well, buying time and dealing with those Zealots properly. So, just like that, the Korean player goes up 1-0. It's going to be for Serral to stay focused to try and bring it back here in this best of 5.
Well, here he is back to the drawing board for our Finnish player. He has another shot here in map number 2. In the top left-hand side of Backwater, the blue player representing ENC Esports. He is Serral.
And his opponents opening up with a very aggressive rush in game number 1. We'll see if he continues with that. Playing Protoss and in the red, it is Classic.
That's the sort of brutality you expect from this Protoss player. Classic always looks to get an advantage wherever he can. And early on, starting off with such a clean, easy victory. That's 1 game up. He only needs 2 more to seal the deal. He's got to have a lot of confidence running through his body right now. And all the pressure's on Serral to adapt, adjust, and to stay calm.
Absolutely. Like, Classic really put Serral on notice from game number 1. Now Serral's the one who's going to have to, I guess, go the extra mile, make sure he keeps up with his scouting. Because last game, I think if he has a second Overlord that, you know, he's around the main base and flies in there, and then you see all of these gateways, the hold is already that much easier. You can't really chalk it up to not having a Roach Warren, because there's definitely things you can do better, like scouting this build order.
Yeah,
a lot of these attacks in StarCraft, the key is to seeing them coming, scouting for them, and once you know it's coming, I mean, it's so much easier, right? Knowing is half the battle is what they say. So if you know, then you just spam units. You get enough to defend, and then you're very far ahead, because usually your economy is going to be way better.
Serral perhaps feeling a little bit pressured to play quite greedy in the openings after seeing how strong Classics play has been in this tournament so far. He's going to be opting for a nice fast third base. A good play here on backwater. Very easy to defend 3 bases. You've only got that one entrance into your 3 expansions. Quite easy to defend for the Zerg players. Overlord is going to come across and scout a very typical opening from Classic as well. A lot of respect from both players. And this time around, the much more standard, straightforward Stargate play. Phoenixes and Oracles, the name of the game in Protoss vs Zerg.
Back to basics. A lot of these top Protosses, especially the Korean Protosses, they've truly mastered how to use the Stargates. A lot of the time you're going to be seeing one Phoenix to take out some of the Overlords around their base, and then double Oracle to go and kill some drones. Even if there is the natural counter to that, a Spore in the Zerg bases, in each one of them, you can still go in there, pick up the Queen, and then let the Oracles put in their work and kill some drones. Keeping the Zerg on the lower worker count early in a game like this is key in doing well further into the game against them. Actually, 10 links on the way here for Serral. This is highly unusual. And he starts an Evo Chamber, so Serral's going to be the one trying to put on some aggression here in that game number 2. As much as it's surprising, it's a build that a lot of Zergs do, so it feels like Classic with how good is it defensively. He might be able to do well against it the earlier he realizes that it's coming, but it's really the effect of surprise here that Serral is going to count on.
That's a bizarre wall-off for Classic there. I don't think it's actually super tight just yet. There's a ton of Zerglings on the way. 2 Adepts in the wall. That's a lot of surface area. Not going to be very powerful against this sort of attack.
He's going to drop into places as well here, is Serral. So he's going to attack at the front with Zerglings. He's going to drop them into that third base that's not even there just yet, into the main base as well. Classic has no idea. He's going to have to react so fast. He has the Oracle back at home.
Shield batteries are going down at the front. He's walled off, so it's all about these dropper lords here. Zerglings in the main, but there's already Adepts in the mineral line. Classic, so well prepared. The Oracle's there as well. He's going to try and depower this Stargate. It goes down. Oracle production is halted there. More Zerglings coming in the front at the same time. The shield battery trying to repair these Adepts. The wall in taking a ton of damage, but the Adepts are down there. Classic all over this defense.
Yeah, Serral is very committed to this attack, and so far it's been defended very well by Classic. That one pylon looks like he might be going down in a second. Classic defending well enough in the main base. If he can hold around the natural, Classic will just be so far ahead, and it looks like he's stabilized here for now. He has so many gates on the way. Classic has defended, only losing 9 probes, so he's gonna find himself on 28 walkers to 22. And Serral is getting a little bit stubborn here. I'm a little bit surprised actually that he's kind of staying around here and attacking that gateway, because he's not doing any more damage. He's going back into drones, and Serral is going to try to transition out of it.
This is such a great rush on this map, but because of that, Protoss players very prepared. Classic all over it. The Phoenix shuts down both drop Overlords. The Void Ray out front going to push these Zerglings back. The wall is solid. Classic has out so much tech. The Robo and the Twilight on the way behind this. A massive 10-worker lead for the Protoss player. A disastrous start for Serral.
This is really bad. You might think, oh, it's just 10 walkers, but actually, for Classic, it's so easy to take a third base on this map. From there, he's going to be the one that's going to be aggressive and kind of force even less drones to be basically made from Serral. From that point onwards, we already see one more gateway going down. I guess he wants to replace the one he might be about to lose here.
Yeah, is of course able to heal with that shield battery. The Oracle going to turn on its laser beam though, get rid of a few of those Zerglings. And I mean, the big problem for Serral in the recovery here is that so many Overlords have gone down to the Phoenix and the Void Ray. That slowed down his ability to drone back up, those 3 Overlords falling, and that's why he is still trailing.
He lost 50 links and didn't even kill an Adept. He got 9 probes and the pylon. That was such a great defense by Classic. Those shield batteries went down on time, and now is the aggression I talked about earlier coming forward here. The Oracles and the Void Ray gonna fly into that third base. There is no transfuse for that Spore, so it's gonna fall pretty much instantly. The Queen's trying to do what they can, but the Spore is needed here to fight with this.
Yeah, this Void Ray and Oracle coming forward, they're starting to do a lot of damage. The Queen Micro is good from Serral. He is going to push this back for now. The Oracle does get out of there, as do the Void Rays. But Classic here, he's the one dictating the pace of this game. His third Nexus has gone back down. Charge is on the way. We have seen Serral make a few comebacks in this tournament. This game is going to need to be one of those. He is just not in a great position. It's going to be a Zergling Baneling composition for him. He is going to try and drone back up. But Classic with full air control right now.
Yeah, Serral might be able to see this prism here in a second. I think he's got a Ling at the north watchtower. As Archons are being morphed, Serral, his economy is not where he wants it to be. Still droning up. He doesn't have that many units. He's going to have to get more Lings, more Queens, and more Banelings in particular here to make sure he can defend appropriately against this. I like that he started +1 melee, by the way. He had the Evo the whole time, so that makes a lot of sense to actually try and go for one of these upgrades.
Oh man, Archon's so good against pure Zergling defense, warping in some Zealots to add to that. All the Queens occupied down at the third base. They need to get back up here. Serral cannot defend this with Zerglings alone. Banelings are going to finish morphing. They'll help clear the Zealots, but the Archon's still an ever-present threat.
Yeah, Serral did a very good job of trying to buy some time. Now he's going to have to take the fight. A lot of his Lings were kind of stuck, evacuating the main base with the drones now. Serral still doing what he can to try and deal with his Archons and charge loss, but now the other base will be exposed, but Serral very smartly moved another spore there against just the air units that he knew were going to move there again and attack.
That's about as good of a defense as you could possibly imagine. Only losing 5 workers there. Quite a few Protoss units are falling. The Archons do come back in. One Archon actually falls. A misstep there from Classic. Zealots at the natural intercepted as well. Serral hanging on when everything is mounted against him. This is why we call him the Finnish Phenom. He is just so good. Even when he's behind, he always finds a way to claw his way back into these games.
So many players, so many Zergs, even some of the best in the world, who would have died right there and then. They would have rolled over, lost too many drones, and find themselves in so much trouble. But not Serral. Somehow he just lost 5 drones. He's still behind in workers, but he stays alive. The dream is still alive here in this series. He might be able to bring this back. Like, it's going to be super hard. He's going to have to keep on having this kind of defense the whole time, somehow wait for Classic to overextend one time, which so far Classic's doing everything right as well. He's going to Storm, adding some Immortals, getting some upgrades, and I'm pretty sure that 4th base of his is going to go up very soon.
Yeah, nice trades there. The Archons, of course, they regenerate their shields once they're out of combat, so he's going to be able to just keep picking up free kills, going in there, and that's what Classic needs to do to maintain his advantage, slowly adding up Storm behind this as well.
Do you know what really could put Serral ahead? By the way, I think he tried to send something outside of this wall and then realized that just now that this is not possible, so these probes kind of finding their way stuck in the main base. By the way, killing that with High Templars will take around 2 years, so...
One shot from the Immortal, Void Ray will do it though.
Yeah, Serral, you know, one of the best ways to get super far ahead very quickly in a ZVP is to drop Banelings. He's got +2 melee, about to finish. All he has to do is morph in a couple Banelings, drop simultaneously in multiple mineral lines. If he connects and kill like 20 to 30 probes, all of a sudden, Serral would find himself quite a bit ahead. Obviously, Classic's army is still always going to be very scary, but Serral is getting some good creep spread going, so I feel like he should definitely aim to try and do that, and we see those Zerglings actually down there. This might be an indicator that he might want to go for something like that here in a moment.
Absolutely. 4 Banelings morphing on both sides. Exactly what you were talking about, Todd. We're going to be seeing the double Overlord Baneling drop at the same time, very focused on the defense. The amount of Storm energy on these High Templar is monstrous, and Serral does not have a large force at home. He's just been droning up. He doesn't have a big army. He needs something to buy him time.
If Serral realized, actually, yeah, he's going to see the army. So he can queue the Baneling drop right now, because then Classic wouldn't be looking back at home for the defense. Obviously, Serral still needs to mind this army. He still needs to defend on his side of the map. He's not queuing the drop across the map just yet. Baneling starts connecting on some of these Archons. Serral with a great pullback just before one of the Storms landed here. Can he stay alive? There's just so much Protoss. He sends one of the Overlords across the map towards the middle line on the natural, but Serral back at home needs to survive for that to be effective. GG gets called. Classic just has too much.
Classic all over this series so far. And it's echoes of the quarterfinals for the young Finnish player. He sees himself down 0-2 once again. And Classic, the man who has barely broken a sweat this entire tournament, he has destroyed every single phase, is now 1 game away from going to the grand finals.
He's looking incredible here, Classic. I mean, I said it's very hard to break this man. The defense in the early game, always fantastic, and that was no difference. He lost 9 probes, but killed 50 Zerglings. Isn't that crazy? I would have lost 90 probes, Big, and I wouldn't even have had that many.
I think we both wouldn't stand a chance at all against these guys, Todd. That's why we're over here on the caster's desk now. I mean, this skill level is just absolutely insane, and what impresses me most, though, is the mentality of the players, especially Classic here. He came out with a very well-planned, decisive cheese, a rush, an all-in attack. He put a massive gamble out there. It worked. He got some momentum. In game number 2, Serral looked to do the same back at him. Classic was ready. He shut it down completely. He saw it coming. He walled off. He was all over both drops at once, and he got a nice lead. Classic has not had to leave his comfort zone. He hasn't had to fight Serral in one of those standard games in which everybody fears him. And now it is this man's job to get back into his comfort zone, to get into that big macro game that he loves. Down here in the bottom left-hand side of the map of Eastwatch, in the blue, he is Serral!
And his opponents in the red playing Protoss and looking just great so far in this series. It is Classic. We even saw a quote here in the ticker from Serral saying that Koreans perhaps don't get as much practice as he does in the late game PvZ, which makes it even more curious that he went for such an aggressive build in game number 2. Here's the thing about that build. It's easy to look at it and say, well, Serral is so good in the late game, why did he do that? The thing is, if he had won, we'd be calling him a genius right now. So it was a high-risk, high-reward situation that just didn't work out for him, sadly.
That's how it goes here. You can't just play the same predictable build orders over and over again. Serral took a risk, it didn't work out. Now here, on this map, Eastwatch, the map which has given us some of the most entertaining and back and forth games due to its architecture. We've got pathways all across this huge map. There's destructible rocks that allow you to shut off pathways and block your opponent's army progression. We see one there. It allows a very, very interesting late game. Serral, of course, began his comeback against Trap on this map. He was down 0-2, the exact same scenario in the quarterfinals. He fell behind on this map as well when his Mutalisks were countered blind by Phoenixes, and yet despite that, he rallied in that game. He attacked in 3, 4, 5 places at once over and over again and wore his opponent down.
Hey, he got to a lot of lurkers actually with adaptive talents and used them so well. I think Trap probably looked back at that game and was like, oh my god, that was actually crazy how well Serral played with this. So definitely, I feel like if Serral were to go for something like that, he'd have a pretty good chance to ignite another comeback once again in a best-of-5 series in which he's down 0-2. He's done it before. Can he do it again? Stargate opener here once again by Classic. Back to basics every single time. I think it's smart to play it like this. He opened up with a rush game 1, successful game 2 Stargates. You know what? He's up 2-0. Doesn't mean he should be doing something crazy like, you know, rushing for a gold base or anything like that. Just go for Stargate. Keep on playing well. He's the one with all the momentum in the world. Don't fall asleep on your lead. Don't give Serral too much leeway.
Protoss often the aggressor in the early to middle stages here of Protoss versus Classic hasn't had to show any of his builds just yet. Now coming across the map with this Adept, he is going to be scouting out, seeing exactly what's going on, spots the third hatchery. Serral's Overlord, of course, going to go into that main base and try to scout the Stargate. It is going to be an Oracle first for Classic, no doubt, following that up with a Phoenix to deny the information. And that's where things always get interesting, is after the Phoenix shuts down the Overlord, that's usually when we see the Protoss player going for the tech, opting for either the Archon drop or some Glaive Adepts. The Adept there actually gets out even after snagging a drone kill and forcing some structures out of Serral, having to, of course, pop those workers into the Spore Crawlers to keep them alive.
Goes down. And the audience cheers. I love that.
Hey.
Just want to air. An Adept in is an Adept.
Revenge, man.
A kill's a kill.
You don't kill one of Serral's workers and get out of there free for it.
And leave to tell the story.
There's always a tax. That's the Serral tax, man. He'll make you pay for every bit of damage you do.
Serral is the tax man? Is that who he is?
I don't know if that's the best nickname. We'll give him another one. We'll stick to Finnish Phenom for now. The Oracle comes in, grabs a drone on the gas, gets out of there. Not too damaged. Will regenerate its shields, of course. The Phoenix shutting down the Overlord. It's going to be a Robo Twilight follow-up. Overlord spots it. Very important information there for Serral. Tells them there's most likely an Archon drop into charge follow-up.
Yeah, with this much gas being mined, Classic is easily going to be able to go into at least 2 Archons whenever he wants to here momentarily, as soon as he gets the, what I'm guessing is going to be the Templar Archives. And then from there you can be so aggressive. He's already whopping in Zealots. So he might want to commit to to a pretty big attack here.
He often uses that to take the third base, and it does kind of give away what he's going for, but I don't think Classic cares. This is such a solid style, the way he plays
Oh!
it.
Almost goes
that
down.
Oracle. Good defense by Serral. He's always so quick at retargeting that Spore Crawler on the Oracle when it flies in. Does a lot of damage. And Classic, often able to find a few more worker kills in this early game. Serral not having any of it. He's already up 7 workers, adding more drones, and he's going for a Roach Warren. So he's going back to basics towards his safe, solid play. And this is really what has delivered Serral the most consistent wins, the most consistent progression to the middle stages of the game. A lot of Roaches out for defense, and we see them now filling up that production tab. 7 Roaches and Roach Speed on the way.
Yeah, this is really what ZVP is all about currently. The Protoss goes for Charge Lot and Archons, and then kind of forces the Zerg to go for Roaches to be able to handle that, or even Adepts. You kind of have to go into Roaches. They are just the best option early game to defend against all that stuff. If you don't, you're just going to be in big trouble. But then once Zerg goes into Roaches, what does Protoss do? Go into Immortals, go into High Templars with Storm, which then makes it very hard for the Zerg to take those fights unless they have a lot more or get very good engagements, which is extremely difficult against somebody as good as Classic.
Oh,
right now.
those
Classic.
Archons very deep.
Ooh, yeah, like almost got some very important snipes on some drones. I believe he got just the one. But +1 missile is now going to start here for Serral. So wouldn't be surprised if he just made these Roaches to make sure he's safe in the first place and later on goes into Lurkers that we've seen in the past on
he's
this
still
map.
building a few more. There we go. Yeah, you are right, Todd. Drones are going to start up. Might see a bit of counter pressure from Serral in this game. I think he's gone up to about 20 Roaches, so that is a very healthy number. And of course, these Archons just going to pick up any Overlord kills they can, taking out the Creep Tumors, taking advantage of the fact that Zerg does not have a lot of mobile anti-air. They've only got these Queens, which can only really move about on Creep. They're very slow out of Zerg territory, so this is going to find as much damage as it can.
And he goes for the goal base instead. I was wondering why Serral didn't even go for that in the first place. Like he's taking the one at the bottom now.
Yeah, it is a little bit harder to defend. Serral often taking the center base because it is a little bit kind of more compact. The base layout a bit safer against harassment. The gold base, of course, open to things like Charge Zealot run-bys later in the game. But he will be getting a little bit more mineral mining as he takes that. For now, we do see those Hydra upgrades on the way. The Lurker Den as well. Looks like Roach Hydra Lurker play here for Serral. He loves going up into this style and then up to about 75 or 80 drones and exploding all over the map with aggression. This game, he's not getting Overlord speed. He's actually going for a fast infestation pit. So we're not going to be seeing the drops. We're going to be seeing just kind of on the ground positioning from multiple angles. And then he's going to tech on up towards Hive. And probably Broodlords as sort of a finishing blow.
Yeah. Serral already thinking so far ahead. Like his Lurker is not even finished. You know, like most Zergs, they'd be like, oh my god, I'm against Classic. I need to get to Lurkers. Then I'll think of taking to Hive.
Maybe
not Serral.
It could be for the, of course, the Lurker upgrade as well, since he did so well with that last time around. We might just see him go for a fast Hive only for that one upgrade, and that would be very cool. Haven't really seen many players opting for that tech path, and indeed, it is a very quick Hive. A 5th base on the way for Serral as well. He's up to 80 workers. Full macro mode engaged. He has a massive economy. He's building a lot of Hydras, but here comes Classic's first push. Quite a few High Templar with Storm. He's going to try to hit from 2 angles. Zealots in the north, and of course the Immortals, Archons, and High Templar in the south.
And this army by Classic is very scary against what Serral has currently. Before he can get to a lot of Lurkers, this army will steamroll a lot of Roaches and Hydralisks. So Serral...
Oh, and he hasn't taken the rocks down either. He might actually get his bases cut off here. Serral not fully prepared for this push. He has a massive economy, but his army just a little bit weak right now. Those High Templar, so dangerous. And there we go, Classic targets the rocks. He's gonna cut Serral off from his expansion, and the drones all get trapped. 15, 16, 17 workers go down. The hatchery is forfeit. A beautiful pickup from Classic.
Such an important base snipe, and immediately Classic realizes that he's ahead. He saw that game of Serral coming back against Trap very well there in the previous series, earlier in the tournament. He knows what Serral's good at, and that's attacking in so many places at once. Starts walking back home. Now he gets the defense against just a few Roaches that were in his multiple bases. Classic might be so comfortable right now. He might just posture forward that other 4th base that Serral's taking to try and attack into it, but there are now Lurkers ready for the defense.
The upgrade's on the way as well now for those lurkers. He's got those adaptive talons on the way. And look at the economy. Classic, no fourth base. He's committed to so much army. Even though he did get a snipe on that base, Serral bounces back. He recovers so quickly when you do this economic damage. You really need to drive it home. Classic only now moving out for a fourth base. And yes, he's got a scary army, but as this lurker count grows, and now with the lurker upgrade almost done, I'm not sure if he can break Serral. I think Serral is going to force this one into the deep late game.
And the adaptive talents upgrades, a very important one. Not only does he make the lurkers move around quicker, they also burrow almost instantaneously. So whereas they're usually a unit that you just kind of burrow and try and fight with, Protoss can just stay away from them. But if they move quicker and they burrow quicker, it's going to be very hard to do that, which is what Serral is going to have to rely on this entire game here to try and ignite a comeback in these semifinals. And as much as Serral, he's been passive up until now that he has that, he has a lot of potential for fighting very effectively, so we'll see how aggressive he gets in a second.
This is a position where usually the Protoss player gets map control when the Zerg swaps into so many lurkers, but Serral, so active with these roaches in the north, he keeps on trying to find openings. Indeed, a few High Templar in the open, a big misstep from Classic. Both of those do go down. These roaches are very cheap and expendable units. Serral doesn't mind losing these. He's used them to distract Classic, pull him out of position, and at the same time, he has an attack mounting its position on the south. Immortals and cannons going up though. Classic so well prepared for this swing.
Yes, this is what Serral is so good at, but Classic so far shut it down perfectly. Look at this wall of cannons. He's just waiting for it. He's got the right amount of Immortals, some Zealot as well. Lurkers cannot set up forward. Now defensively, everything's gonna have to burrow. Classic moving right in there as we're taking his point of view here for a second. He forces the Lurkers back and there's just so little left. Back at home here for Serral. Classic marching towards victory here. He wants to go to those grand finals. Those lurkers keep having to move back.
One single moment of inattention from Serral, and Classic pounces on top of everything. This base in the middle is forfeit. Classic warping in more units. He does lose a few units on the north of the lurkers. More roaches and hydras coming in, but that base falls. Serral's economy taking yet another bruising. Classic transitioning workers onto his fourth base. He knows this army cannot be easily replenished. He's out of storms. It's mostly just Zealots and Immortals right now, but those roaches are not the unit that Serral needs. Classic's army is so strong. The +2 Immortals pushing through. He's ferrying the weak Immortals to the back with that War Prism, picking them up as they take damage. The last line of defense falls, and Classic is your first finalist. What an incredible 3-0. Barely breaks a sweat his entire run of the tournament to the finals. Classic showing incredible form.
Shutting down the Serral hype almost as quickly as it began. That was just a solid performance throughout here by Classic.
He was all over it. I can't wait to hear his thoughts. Of course, guys, we are going to be right back to hear from Classic himself.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Intel Extreme Masters Katowice. We just finished our first semifinal match of the day, and it is Classic with a clean 3-0 over Serral to become our first grand finalist. So first of all, congratulations, Classic. Yesterday, when I spoke with you, you told me that it was a dream of yours to play inside the Spodek Arena, and not only did you accomplish that, now you're through to the grand final. So tell us, how much does this mean for you?
일단 결승 진출 축하드리고요. 어저께 얘기 나눴을 때는 이 큰 무대에서 경기를 하는 게 꿈이라고 했는데 이제 결승 진출까지 한 느낌이 어떤지 얘기해 주세요.
우선 제가 이렇게 큰 무대에 서서 경기해보는 게 정말 꿈이어가지고 어제 이제 잠도 제대로 못 자면서 되게 긴장을 많이 했거든요. 근데 이렇게 많은 환호를 받으면서 결승까지 가게 되어서 지금 너무 기뻐요.
So he says, first of all, playing on a big stage like this in the Spodek Arena has just been a dream of mine that last night when I was trying to sleep, I had trouble because I was getting so nervous and excited just thinking about it. And playing in front of you guys, in front of all these fans that are cheering so loudly and passionately is just so exciting for me. And I cannot wait to play in that grand finals. Now, Classic, when I spoke with you yesterday, you said that you respect Serral very, very much and that you would treat this very, very seriously. It was a clean 3-0. It almost seemed a little bit too easy. Did you expect that it would be this straightforward?
어저께 얘기를 나눴을 때는 세럴 선수를 엄청 존경한다고 했는데 되게 경기들이 빨리 끝났어요. 이렇게 쉬울 거라고 예상하셨나요?
우선 저도 저그전이 자신이 있고 1세트를 좀 전략적으로 준비했는데 1세트를 만약에 이긴다면 3대 0까지 나올 수 있겠다라고 생각을 했어요.
So he says, first things first, I am very confident in my PVZ, and I came into that very specific strategy, and I thought to myself, as long as that first map goes really well, maybe I can get a 3-0. And the fact that that first map did play out so well for me, I think that was a key factor in me ending this series with the 3-0. And now you are moving to the grand finals. You're going to be playing either Maru or Rogue. Both of these players are obviously very good players. Who do you think you're going to be going on to face?
이제 결승전에서 이제 조성주 선수 아니면 이병렬 선수를 만나게 될 건데 누가 올라올 것 같고 누구랑 만나고 싶으세요?
누가 와도 힘들 것 같긴 한데 그래도 방금 저그전에 했으니 테란을 이기고 우승을 하는 게 더 좋을 것 같아가지고 성주가 올라왔으면 좋겠어요.
So he says, no matter who I face, I think that it will be a difficult match. But that being said, since I just took down a Zerg player, I think it'll be more interesting if I face a Terran in the finals. So I hope that Maru comes and faces me in the grand finals, and I hope to be having a really great series against him. So congratulations again, Classic. Best of luck in that grand finals match. Caleres, let's head back to you.
2 words, utter domination. Classic moves through into the grand final and he has the opportunity of that $150,000 prize pool. Of course, Serral makes himself $25,000, I should say, in that 3rd and 4th spot. But gentlemen, even though Serral looked so amazing throughout this tournament, Classic made it look easy.
He has barely dropped any games in this tournament so far. He lost a couple in the round of... he lost 1 to Deer and 1 in groups, right? So
something like that, yeah.
Classic has lost 2 games total on his way to the finals. That's domination.
It's ridiculous. He played it so smart. I think the approach to the finals is very smart. A lot of people really like to start off slow and steady on a big stage match. In his first game, he tricks him immediately. He obviously analyzed the way that Serral scouts, the way that Serral reacts to openings, uses the Stalker to prevent the Overlord from seeing anything, shows up with 8 gates and a War Prism, and it doesn't matter who you are. If you have no Roach Warren, you have no Bailing Nest, it's game over. And that's a really frustrating way to lose game number 1.
Right.
And then in game 2, Serral tries to be the aggressive one instead, hoping that perhaps he's not going to go for a Stargate. Instead, Classic does not only have a very safe opening, he does literally everything correct against the Link Flood. And then suddenly you feel like the series has barely started and it's 2-0 for Classic.
Yes.
And I mean, come on, what do you do then?
And to be honest, you know, what we're sneaking through the bracket stages, even in group stages, is a very heavy focus on a lot of macro games.
Yep.
Not really taking those kinds of risks. So this kind of stage here in the Spodek Arena changes the mood. It changes the atmosphere here where these players are feeling things are very, very violent in the course that they have to take here on the grandest stage of them all.
I tell you, I just love Classic's play, the way that he is able to mix it up. Like, for instance, we saw Serral up there. He seemed a bit nervous, even though he has a lot of experience. There isn't a bigger stage than Spodek for him right now, right?
Yes.
Like, this is one of the biggest tournaments we have ever had in StarCraft 2. So just to capitalize on those nerves with aggressive, sharp play from Classic, I think he's planned this so well.
Yeah, he quelled those nerves in WCS circuit, but here on this big stage, very, very difficult. Let's check in with the bracket, of course, as we do have one name confirmed in that grand final, and it is Classic. That is going to be a best of 7 later on down the line. For someone like Serral, as much as, you know, it's disappointing to go out 3-0 here, I don't think he has to be disappointed overall with his performance, Rotterdam. What he's shown, the growth that we've seen from Serral from Finland has been amazing.
Yeah, the run through this tournament was great. Watching him in the group stage, once again, just like last year, win a group, a round-robin group with 5 other phenomenal players inside of that group. It was great. I think yesterday, the quarterfinals, the comeback that he had against Trap while being down 0-2, turning it around, even being behind in Game 3. It was an amazing run. But yeah, Classic played it really, really smart and good.
And a lot of people are pegging Classic to win the whole thing, and have done from the very beginning, Artosis. So there's not too much surprise here that we see him performing as well as he is doing.
He's in phenomenal shape, there's no question. He's top 8 in the GSL right now.
Yep.
This is a guy who's been a champion before. GSL, SSL, even IEM. He has won a lot of tournaments, and I mean, there's no secret that he is one of the scariest Protoss players out there.
Who do you think shapes up against him best in the final? Obviously, we're going to talk about Rogue and Maru a little bit later on, but just quick thoughts, who do you think would shape up best against him?
I'd probably say Rogue, actually. I think Rogue is all around super solid, and I absolutely believe that Rogue has what it takes, A, to be aggressive, B, to defend certain aggressions. He's also no stranger to Classic. Obviously, he's going to be very well aware, especially after what Classic just shown. And even though Maru took out SOS, who is perhaps just as scary as Classic is, I think that was a very scrappy series, and that's not something that Maru can pull off 3 or 4 times in a row. So I think that Maru is not too happy with the fact that Classic won, but obviously you should probably worry about Rogue first.
Let's check in with the schedule to get you up to date as to what is happening so far and what is to come. That's the 3-0 for Classic confirmed as he moves through to the grand final. Next up, of course, we have Rogue going up against Maru. Rogue, one of our world champions here in StarCraft 2, will be looking to power on through against Maru, who has shown us that he is not to be trifled with. Thank you very much, gentlemen. We're going to go to a short break now. When we return, more StarCraft action here from the Spodek Arena in Katowice.